Welcome back to Thriving in Love podcast, a podcast that talks about challenging traditional marriage norms to create unique love stories that work for your authentic self. I'm your host, Akhand, intuitive love coach, and I help couples find reconnection, deeper intimacy, and new levels of their love. Today's episode is brought to you on my rooftop. If you're watching this on YouTube, you will see the beautiful scenery. And if you're on Spotify or Apple, please click like, follow, subscribe, and leave a review. It really helps me out a lot. And if you do leave a review, shoot me an email. I'll send over my free ebook that talks all about how you can repair and reconnect after a period of disconnection in your marriage. Today, I want to dive into the dynamics of healthy love. How can we recognize it? How do we know we have it? And I kind of want to touch on the topic of toxic love. And I want to talk about why people stay in toxic relationships and how can people get out of toxic relationships, and how can we determine if we should stay or if we should go when we are in these relationships. I also want to touch on, can toxic bonds or broken bonds be repaired? And if so, how can we navigate those challenges? So let's dive in. Before we begin, I just want to talk about the difference between healthy love and toxic love. At the core, healthy love has trust, respect, joy, laughter, and you feel safe and secure to express your authentic self with the person that you're in a relationship with. Toxic love is when you sacrifice who you authentically are in order for the person that you're in a relationship with to feel more comfortable or to fit better into your life. The reason that is toxic is because the more we abandon ourselves in order to have our external life be what we think we want it to be, over time, you're always going to feel unfulfilled, because at the core, we are here to discover our authentic selves and get closer to our authentic selves and be more us. So we need to be cultivating spaces and experiences and people that encourage us to be more of our authentic self versus strip us away. And that is the entire journey of self-discovery and self-love. And that's why people say you need to love yourself before you're in a relationship. And what that really means is that you just need to know who you are to your core, what your hobbies are, what your likes are, what your dislikes are. And when you do know yourself that deeply, it's easier to know if someone is for you or if they aren't for you. But if you're disconnected from your authentic self and you're seeking external validation and you're seeking external happiness and external things to fulfill you, then it's going to be a lot harder to be aware if you are in a toxic relationship or if you're in a healthy one, because you're just used to abandoning your true self in order for things around you to fit better into your life. And a big misconception is that healthy love is just smooth sailing and it's great and everything works out. No, just because you're in a healthy relationship doesn't mean you're not going to have conflict. It's about how can you learn how to communicate. What are your, not just your love languages, but what are your fighting languages, and learning how to navigate each other's worlds without judgment, without shame, without guilt, and not trying to make the other person more like you and not trying to become more like the other person, but honoring your individual selves and learning how to create enough space within your relationship in order for both fighting styles and love languages and likes and dislikes and hobbies and interests to all fit. And that is why having things like healthy boundaries is so incredibly important, because it helps you honor your true self and you don't abandon who you are to be with this person. And if you're in a healthy, loving relationship, the person's not going to want you to abandon your true self. They're going to honor your boundaries, and it's not going to feel like a struggle that you're trying to uphold these boundaries and they're constantly being overstepped. They may get overstepped sometimes. That's natural. That's normal, because we are two individuals trying to navigate two different worlds that we've never experienced before. And not everything is going to be easy, especially at first when you guys are learning more about yourselves, knowing what is a non-negotiable for you to continue to do while you're in this relationship so that you don't lose your identity and your sense of self, then learning how to communicate those needs and set those boundaries. That is step one. Step two is communicating those boundaries and explaining why those boundaries need to be present, and how can your partner support you through these boundaries, and it's vice versa. So make sure that when you are creating these boundaries for yourself, you're also asking them, what are your boundaries? What are some things that are non-negotiables for you? And create a loving environment that is a safe space for both of you to express your needs. Your partner at first may not even know what they need because they're not used to having these kind of conversations. So it's important to give them that space to figure out what they may need. They may not know right away. So don't shame them if they don't know. Create that space for them to feel safe enough to figure it out. Another big component on the difference between healthy and toxic love is there equality in your partnership? That doesn't mean that you're both doing the same things, and it doesn't mean that all the household chores are 50-50. What it means is, do you feel like you both are contributing equally to run the household, whether it's between the chores or the bills or buying things for the house, building furniture, fixing things around the house? There's a lot that goes into nurturing a household. So don't just think about the cooking and cleaning. Maybe that is something that you do more of. Make sure you're looking at holistically the whole picture. Maybe there's things that they're doing. Are they taking care of the lawn? Are they throwing out the trash? Are they dealing with the garbage days? Like, think about all of it and make a list of everything. Break it down so you can visually see, like, okay, is it a fair division of labor to run this household, or is one person carrying more of the load versus the other? And if they are carrying more of the physical load, is the other person maybe carrying more of the emotional load or the mental load? Because there is a lot that goes into not just a household, but also running a relationship. For instance, if my husband's doing more of the physical labor in the household, I may be doing more of the emotional labor, where I'm in charge of making sure we're doing our weekly check-ins. I'm in charge of maybe planning our date nights, but he'll always pay for the date nights, and he'll always be excited and present with me on these date nights because he's during the week taking care of his career, his roles and duties as a husband in the household. I honestly never worry about the bills. I don't worry about taking out the trash. I don't worry about what needs to be fixed and what doesn't, and what needs to be repaired. Like, my husband handles all of that. So yeah, I do more of the cooking and the cleaning, but that's just because I enjoy it and it makes me feel like I'm taking care of my body the way I want to take care of it. So I cook the meals that I want to cook for my body, and then he just reaps those benefits. So it really is just about putting it all on paper. And if you do fall into traditional gender roles, don't think you're like an anti-feminist, because you're allowed to pick and choose what gender roles you enjoy, and then you're also allowed to pick and choose which ones don't fit your authentic self based on your own strengths and weaknesses. The biggest thing that I see is the difference between healthy love and toxic love is, do you feel like you're able to have an emotional safe space to share your vulnerabilities, your fears, your things that are bothering you, in terms of things that you feel like you should have gotten over from your childhood, but they're still lingering or they're coming up? Like, do you feel like you can comfortably express yourself, your true free self, without judgment and shame? So when you're in a toxic relationship, what I see a lot are people that are tiptoeing around each other's feelings and saying, you know what, I don't want to get a certain reaction out of them. It's not that big of a deal. I'll just handle my own stuff. But what that does is, over time, it really starts to burden you, that you feel like you are taking care of them and their emotional outbursts or needs, and you're not getting the same in return. Things like that over time build resentment, and that's how you can end up in just like a cycle of disconnection. And you may not be in like a toxic relationship per se in terms of physical violence or emotional abuse or any of that, but when you are not feeling like you have an emotional safe space in your relationship, that is toxic for you, because you don't feel like your heart is being taken care of in the way it needs to be taken care of. Most important thing about relationships, like I was saying earlier, healthy relationships are not all rainbows and butterflies, because the main thing is your darkness. Like, we all have a dark side to us. We all have emotional baggage. We all have parts of us that aren't great. Like, we're human. We're not here to be perfect and saints. We have things that we judge, and we have things that we don't like, and we have people that we don't like. And does this person support you and just like create space to hear you out and encourage you to think about things in like a way that you may not have thought about? Do they just let you be a human, or are they constantly judging you for like all the things that you feel and think, even though it's totally normal sometimes to just not like someone and gossip about them with your partner? Like those are things that create that best friend bond versus just a partner who's like a husband or a wife or what have you. Like that best friend bond truly does come from being able to feel safe to express your darkness too. Like you're kind of like your naughty behavior that is safe. Like you're not toxic. You're not someone who's like talking shit about someone just for the sake of it, but like you're allowed to have those moments too, you know? Say you have a toxic relationship. Say I just said all this and it's something may have clicked in you that maybe your relationship isn't a safe space for you emotionally, or maybe the division of labor is something that you know that is just not balanced and it can't be balanced and it's draining you and your relationship is burning you out. Now what do? Do you repair and reconnect, or do you move on? So these are the questions that can be really daunting, and it could really be that part in your life and in your journey where you really have to make a choice. Should you stay? Should you go? And the number one question I ask all my clients when they come to this crossroads in life is, do you feel like you have the core basic needs that are required for the foundation of any healthy relationship, which is respect? Do you feel respected? Do you feel like, yes, you guys argue, yes, you may raise your voice, and yes, you may have unhealthy coping mechanisms when you do get into these arguments, but at the end of the day, do you feel at the root of it all, they have respect for you? They're not rude to you. They don't talk down to you. They respect what you're saying, even if they don't agree with what you're saying. And then another thing is trust. Trust is the bare minimum of what you should have. And if you don't have trust because of what your partner has done in the past and you're trying to repair that trust, a lot of that has to come with trusting yourself and trusting your own gut. So it is a point where you may have to detach from that person temporarily in order to go on a journey of self-discovery, to reinvent that trust in yourself and be able to feel comfortable in your intuition, your gut feelings, and your own emotions before you're able to forgive and forget your partner. A lot of times people stay because they are so scared of the unknown, even if they know that their current situation is just really uncomfortable for them. And if that's a place that you're at in your life, I just want you to know that it is always harder to be in a relationship where you know things are not right than it is to figure out how to get out and create a new life. It's going to be hard for you at first to create the new life, but over time, there's nothing in the world that is more worth that work than inner peace, joy, laughter, happiness, creativity, and just your entire life back and a new lease on life, versus going your entire life in a mundane, mediocre, toxic relationship where you don't feel happy, secure, confident, respected, and letting that kill every other aspect of you with your creativity, your passions, your joy, and your laughter. It is a disservice to your life on earth, which is a huge miracle and a blessing on its own. It is the worst thing you could do for yourself and the people around you and your purpose from what your soul is here to do on this earth. When you're 80 years old, are you going to say, man, I wish I just had the strength to leave? Or are you going to say, damn, thank God I didn't waste my entire life on that relationship and I ended up having such a full life instead? Because staying in a toxic relationship really takes a toll on our mental health. It really takes a toll on our well-being and our wellness and our body and our soul. And it's not just something that, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Just because you are tolerating each other and it's not a violently abusive relationship, that doesn't mean it's still the right relationship. So make sure you have a relationship that is adding to your life and not taking away from it. And just remember that every single relationship is so incredibly unique, and I'm not here to give you the answers to your relationship, and only you know the answers for your relationship. I'm a big advocate on repair and reconnection and a second chance and a marriage 2.0, which is the work that I do with my clients. But I always say the first question, do you have respect and do you have trust? If not, then I ask, why do you think this love is worth fighting for? So as we close out this episode, I want you to really think about the core things that exist in your relationship. Do you have respect? Do you have trust? Do you have an emotional safe space? Do you feel supported in your authentic self or on your journey to discovering your authentic self? And if yes, congratulations, you have a beautiful, healthy relationship and you can get through any of your obstacles that you may face. If not, then let's chat and figure out how we can make sure that you are set up for success and you can thrive in love. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am excited to keep putting these episodes out for you guys to learn more about healthy love and eliminate more toxic tendencies that may be coming up in your relationships, so that we can all enjoy the beautiful experience of love while we're here on earth. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time.